You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. This truth is not consolation, it is an uncompromising summons. Distraction is not a minor nuisance in the theater of modern life. It is an active adversary of the soul and an assault on the liberty that defines true manhood. Where attention is scattered, agency dissolves. Where impulse rules, character atrophies. In the next 10 minutes and beyond, listen as if the quality of your life depends upon what you choose to hold in your mind, because it does. If you are committed to discipline, mastery, and the slow accumulation of strength, subscribe now. Not for spectacle or constant amusement, but to train with ideas that demand endurance, to return repeatedly to principles that build a life of purpose rather than fragments. This channel is not easy comfort, it is a steady forge. The enemy I name is distraction, the habitual scattering of attention across trivial stimuli, the surrender to the quickest gratification that denies depth. To resist it requires deliberate structure, repeated practice, and moral clarity. I present 3 principles, not quick hacks, but disciplines, each with a terse philosophical anchor, a precise method, and a concrete example you can follow. Learn them, apply them, make them the scaffolding of a life that will not be carried by the currents of convenience. First principle: master your environment, attend to where you stand, and you will command where you go. The human mind is porous, it drinks what the senses pour in. A single device, a buzzing notification, a luminous screen can fracture an hour into a dozen meaningless interruptions. The remedy is architectural. Remove temptations before they ever speak to you. This means curating the immediate space of work and rest so that attention meets stability. It is not merely about discipline of will in the moment, it is about preventing the moment from being compromised. Set a strict perimeter, a room reserved for deep work, devices shut or removed, visual clutter erased, a single notebook for thought, a clock for measure. Turn your habitat into a supportive ally rather than a battleground where impulse has the advantage. Consider the craftsman in a dim workshop. The carpenter lays out his tools in order, removes the things he will not need, and with that arrangement, the hands that follow become precise. The modern equivalent is a writer who closes tabs, silences notifications, places the phone in a drawer, and marks 2 uninterrupted hours on the calendar each morning. As Epictetus taught, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Epictetus. That response begins with design. To undergo the discipline of attention, do not rely on heroic resistance. Change the conditions so resistance is unnecessary. Second principle: structure time as sovereignty. Make your day a series of intentional commands rather than a sequence of passive reactions. Attention is a resource measured in units of time. Squander the units, and there is nothing to build with. Sovereignty over time is achieved through cadence and commitment. Fixed blocks devoted to singular tasks, ritualized transitions that train the mind to settle, and explicit boundaries that mark the beginning and end of labor. Adopt a rhythm that privileges depth. Begin with the single most important task when the mind is fresh. Guard it jealously, and do not fragment the session with multitasking. Keep a visible ledger of priorities, not a long list of wishes, but 3 relentless responsibilities for the day. Train the will through incremental increases in session length. Measure progress in completed work, not in hours filled with distributed attention. A simple practice: claim 90 minutes of uninterrupted work in the morning, then a deliberate break, then another focused block.
Repetition builds capacity. Over weeks, you will find the mind easier to command. In the modern workplace, this looks like a software engineer who disables chat channels during a coding block, informs the team of his focus window, and through consistent action protects the integrity of deep work. In classical terms, the soldier who practices drill until the movement is no longer a struggle but a discipline of the body. Time discipline transforms attention into habit. As Seneca observed, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Do not let imagined urgency steal the actual work. Third principle, cultivate internal command. Train the mind as you would train a muscle. External conditions and time structures will fail unless the inner officer is practiced. Attention must be habituated through exercises that demand patience and sustained restraint. Meditation oriented to breath or object, deliberate single-task training, the practice of delaying small gratifications, and the initiation of micro-routines that anchor the day. This is moral training as much as cognitive. Learn to observe impulses without immediate surrender. Name them, map their patterns, and impose a delay between stimulus and response. Each delay is a small victory. Each small victory hardens resolve. Build rituals that orient the mind. A simple pre-work routine, standing, deep breath, 5 minutes of focused reading, 1 page of writing, signals to the nervous system that seriousness has arrived. In everyday life, this appears in a man who resists scrolling his phone upon waking. Instead, he reads 2 pages, plans his morning, then begins. Over months, such rituals shift identity, from a person who is reactive into a person who commands his inner weather. The psychologist Viktor Frankl wrote that when circumstance cannot be changed, the last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor Frankl. Internal command is the act of changing yourself to resist what you cannot redesign. For each of these principles, there is a trainable practice and a simple failure mode to avoid. With environment, failure is complacency, leaving the phone within reach, tolerating visual noise, accepting a fragmented desk. The practice is ruthless simplification. Remove, hide, or neutralize the things that seek you. With time, failure is permissive scheduling, answering the urgent and abandoning the important. The practice is to schedule with the precision of a commander, set blocks, declare them public, and habitually honor them. With internal command, failure is indulgence, yielding once and then again until the habit becomes default. The practice is daily micro-resistance, small refusals to immediate pleasure that compound into a new temper. Do not mistake difficulty for futility. Self-mastery is achieved through repeated measured resistance, not through grand gestures. Each morning you resist a single temptation, you solder a small seam in character. Each uninterrupted hour you protect becomes a deposit in the account of competence. Over a year, these deposits yield a life that is aligned, capable, and free. Consider a real sequence. A young father who, instead of flitting between messages while holding his child, sets aside an intentional hour in which the phone is absent, fully present with the child, and then after completes a defined creative task until it reaches a natural stopping point. He builds presence with his family and a body of work in the same breath. Or consider a manager who refuses the tyranny of the inbox for the first hour, thereby setting the tone for decision-making rather than reaction. These are practical examples. They are not dramatic because what they build is not spectacle but foundation. Language matters. Speak to yourself in terms that clarify duty rather than desire. Replace asking what you feel like doing with stating what you will do. The voice of the inner commander is precise. It gives orders, accepts consequences, and repeats. Habit is the ally that will move you when motivation wanes. Design simple anchors, a dedicated workspace, a visible task ledger, a morning ritual, a declared focus window to colleagues. Each anchor reduces friction and preserves attention for the work that matters. Remember, the goal is not busyness, but presence, not activity, but responsibility. Distraction is the soft surrender that leaves a man without a center.
Finally, the posture of this work is responsibility. To reclaim focus is to accept that most of one's time will be spent in choices that shape the character of a lifetime. This acceptance demands humility, the admission that undisciplined impulse has been allowed to direct life, and courage, the willingness to change habits and to be disciplined in ordinary moments. It demands consistency, small daily acts repeated with the steadiness of a metronome. It demands patience. Depth accumulates slowly and shows itself in the quality of work, in the steadiness of relationships, and in the capacity to meet hardship without collapse. The path of focus is austere, but it is not barren. It yields a life of meaning, competence, and inner sovereignty. Take this final charge. Begin tonight with a single concrete act. For the next 24 hours, select one major task and give it an uninterrupted block of work. Remove the instrument of your most frequent distraction from the room. Note how the mind reacts. Observe without shame. Repeat the next day and the next. Discipline is not a single victory, but the daily decision to show up. If you have found value in this account of attention and restraint, subscribe, not for brief inspiration, but to return to the practice of improvement, to follow ideas that refine character, and to join a small, steady company of men who choose to harden themselves through thought and habit. This is not a plea for fleeting affirmation. It is an invitation to join a deliberate life. You have been given the capacity to hold your mind. Use it daily with precision and with purpose. The world will clamor for pieces of you until you learn to guard your attention like the only capital that matters. Stand guard. Command your environment, rule your time, and train your inner officer. In that trench you will find the shape of a life that is free, capable, and honorable.